The other day I posted this tweet on Twitter asking for my followers to drop their Framer sites in the comments because I actually want to go through some of them and see if I can improve them in some way. So what I'm going to do in this video, I'm going to go through some of these websites. I'm going to be, taking a look at them and seeing if, anything could be improved. And if yes, I'm going to jump into the remixes, into the project files, and I'll show you how you can fix these issues that they are, making on the sites. And, that way you can make sure that you don't make these same mistakes on your Framer websites. So without any further ado, let me introduce myself. My name is Nandi. This is Framer University, and let's get started. Okay, so here is our first website. It's really important. I'm gonna have a link for each of the websites down in the description. I already picked out some of the things that I want to talk about on each of the websites, so we're not going to be scrolling through each of the sites one by one. I'm going to just directly look at the elements that I already noted down for myself. So for example, on this website, the element that I want to look at is this little button in the top right of the navigation, because you can see that when I hover over that, we have a little bit of a weird effect. So first of all, there are two things I'm noticing. The first thing is that when the text changes on the button, it just gets distorted in a weird way. So we'll have to take a look at that, why that is happening, and then also the movement of this resizing is also a little bit weird, because you can see that the end position of the right alignment will be right here, as you can see, but when I start hovering over it for a second, it like expands to the right a little bit more. So I'm just wondering if maybe it would look a little bit better if this alignment would be, kept throughout the animation. And so it would just expand to the right and back, or to the left and back to the right. So let's jump into the Framer project and see how we can fix this. So as you can see, here is a little navigation. Keep in mind that this is the first time I'm seeing this project, so it might be a little bit hard to navigate here, but I'm going to try to do my best. So here's a navigation bar. Let's double click into that so we can reveal the component itself, and we can already see that here is the button. So let's take a look into this. It has this animation, and yeah, I think this is where we're gonna actually fix the text distortion. As you can see, the text itself is actually a component, which is really interesting, to be honest. I guess it's a download button, so it has to be this download component, but yeah, now I'm a little bit confused, because then it might be actually a little bit harder for us to fix this. But what I'm thinking, so what happens is that basically when you have a single text layer and you're trying to animate that on different variants, so for example, on one we say resume, and then on the other one we say download resume. So in this case, what we would need to do to make this animation a little bit more smoother and avoid the text distortion is we would have to make two separate text layers, and we would need to change their opacity, and that's how we would transition from one text to another. Because if we use a single text layer and change the content of the text layer on different variants, it's not going to be like a smooth animation, and it might lead to different distortions. So this will actually be great for us, because now this is like a download button component, but I'll try to do my best and see if I can fix this. So I'm going to just duplicate this. I'm going to write download resume on the other one, so download, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to perhaps change this to absolute positioning. I'm going to pin it to the right side, and then I'm going to also make sure that it's opacity 0. And then here I'm going to simply change the text here that was overridden. I'm going to change its opacity to 0. I'm going to also switch it to absolute positioning, pin it to the right side, and now I'm switching this other text layer to a relative positioning and switching it to opacity 1. I think this can be overridden because we already set download resume on the first variant, and hopefully this will now lead to a smoother transition. You can see that now we don't see any text distortion. Maybe if you're, I don't know, if you're not seeing it, then maybe try slowing down the video a little bit, and that way I think you'll see it a little bit better. but now this is already like a nice improvement. But if we go back, I think we'll still see that little like moving to the right. And there could be, different reasons for that. My first thought is that here this stack is set up in a way that the elements are not sticking to the right side, but maybe they are centered. But I can see that it is set to distribute and I think that is exactly what we are looking for. Yes. So then what I'm thinking is that perhaps this is actually getting now a little bit harder to fix. Okay, I just broke it because I switched it to with fixed. So yeah, so it seems like everything is all right in terms of the stacks layout settings. So now the second reason for this could be the transition settings. So you have to see that within the button component, we have a transition, which is set to point for time and point to bounce. So if you want this animation to nicely align with the rest of the stuff, we also have to set the same transition on the wrapping component. So for example, this navigation. So let's see what we have here. And as you can see, we have something a little bit different. So let's switch it to point 4 and point 2. And hopefully this is going to fix it for us. And yeah, as you can see, now if I hover over this, it is nicely expanding to the left and then back to the right without moving to the right, like this, expanding to the right. And yeah, these are really like small things, but can make a huge like difference when you're taking a look at all of these small details. They all add up, and then then it creates your actual perfect website. So that's about the first website. Now let's go on to the next one. And so here I think what I have is a little trick that I want to tell you guys about the 404 page. Because on the 404 page, we usually don't really have much content, but we still want to include our footer. And what happens in this case is that because we don't really have enough content here, this footer is also pushed to the top. But usually, the footer is at the bottom of the website. So right here, it's not really at the bottom of the site. And even if we take a look at this on a larger screen, so if I scale this down a little bit, you can see that if I were to visit this on a large screen, this footer would be here at the top of the website. And for example, the template button would still be on the bottom right. This template by Samir would be in the bottom left. So how do we make sure that in these cases, the footer is actually sticking to the bottom of our website? Let's take a look at that. I'm going to go to the next project, and I'm going to also switch to the 404 page, which is right here. Okay, so let's take a look at the structure of this page. We have the snapbar at the top, then we have the hero, and then we have the footer. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap the hero and the footer in a common stack. So I'm going to select both of them, press Option, Command, and Enter. And then this stack will wrap now the hero and the footer. I'm going to just call it, I don't know, main content. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that this hero frame is always sticking to the top of this stack that we've just created, and the footer is always sticking to the bottom. How can we achieve that? We can achieve that by setting the main content stack to distribute space between. So now it is pretty good. Then basically we can keep the height on fit content, but if we publish this site and take a look at what we have so far, you can see that I think we have not actually fixed what we wanted to fix. Yes, as you can see, it is still at the top. So now here comes the little trick, because the main content frame is now right here. It is set to fit content, it fits the content within, and now the content is, not that tall. It's just two little frames, and they are not taking up the available space or enough space of our viewport. So the trick here is that we have to add a min height for this main content. So on the right panel, I can just add min height and then viewport and 100 VH. It basically means that this main content will never be smaller than the actual height of our viewport. If we are viewing this on a large screen, it will be that height. If we are viewing this on a small, mobile, it will be a smaller height. And this is just the minimum height. It's not the max, it can grow bigger than that, but it will never be smaller than this. And this is perfect for us. So now I can publish this again, and I'll just reload it here, and notice how the footer will jump to the bottom. As you can see, it is just perfect. And now what I would probably also do is I would make sure that this is then centered here within the available space to really perfect this layout. And that's something that I can really easily do by making sure that this hero right here is set to fill height, and then I will also make sure that it is set to vertical direction, center. Now basically now what this will do is it will make sure that this right here is always filling up the available space. So if you're on a larger screen, it will just fill up more, space. So I'll just publish this site now. And if I go to the website right now and reload this, you'll see that now this page not found is nicely centered here within this view. And again, this is perfect. On smaller devices, this will probably not be that visible, but we have to consider that people are looking at our websites on larger devices, and we have to account to that. By the way, what I'm doing here in the browsers, I'm just going to the inspect mode, and then here I'm scaling it down to 50%. This allows me to take a look at the actual website, as you can see, on much larger screens. So yeah, that's what I'm using right here. Okay, so here we are on the next website, and here what I want to talk about is actually this little FAQ section. I talk a lot about FAQs because many times they are not built correctly, and here it is almost correct. It just has a little issue. As you can see, everything is being animated nicely, because what happens usually is people have these accordions and then they just wrap them in frames, and then it will result in a not so nice animation, because then only the accordions are animated, and when an accordion pushes away another accordion to the bottom, it is not getting animated. But here it is correctly done. If we actually take a look at the Framer project, we will probably see that if we scroll down here, we will see that this large frame right here is an accordion. So when one of these are opened down, this accordion block will nicely animate. Just to show you how this would look without the component, I'll detach it for a second, and you will see that we will not have that nice of an animation. As you can see, now these accordions, when we open down one, they just jump away instantly, and it's not that nice. But what is the little issue that we are having right here? It's basically that the accordion has another wrapping frame around, which is this gray little rectangle. And as you can see, if you take a look at this, or focus on the bottom part of it, you will see that when I open and close these accordions, it is not getting animated, it's just jumping away instantly. And in some cases, it's cutting off some of the accordions. Yeah, it's just not a nice effect. And it's so easy to fix it. We just have to make sure that this stack content here is just wrapped in another component. So Option Command K, and then now we have this component, and probably it's gonna be all fixed now. Let's just take a look at this. And yeah, now everything is getting animated. We have a few small issues. First of all, the transitions are not matching. So, if you remember the first site that we looked at, it had a similar issue. So we wrap a bunch of different components. They all have to have the same transition so that they're nicely lined up. 440 on the accordion within, and then I think we have 440 here as well. So we have to have 440 here in this case as well. So this will make it a little bit better. It will make it a little bit more aligned. But when we close this, you'll see that it will get a little bit cut off on the bottom. And it is because, I don't know why I'm not seeing anything. Okay guys, it seems like that's it for this video. I'm gonna see you in the next. Now we're back in Framer and we can see everything. So the thing here is that probably what is happening is that some of the layers here are pushed away instantly. So for example, this stack right here is probably cutting it off. So, again, this is another wrapping frame, and this is also getting animated and changed in height when we open down these accordions. And then when it's getting closed, this will just jump back and it will cut off some of the elements. A really easy fix for this is just setting the overflow to visible on this stack. So whenever an element will be overflown, it will be visible. But I just noticed that we have another element like that, which is this stack. This also needs to be set to overflow visible. So again, now if I'm just going to set this to absolute positioning so I can move it down, you can see that now it's going to nicely be visible even if the wrapping frame is a little bit smaller for a couple of milliseconds. So now if I publish this site and I go to the link, you'll see that the FAQ section will be, perfected. So let's just see. As you can see, this is what we have. And again, super small details. If we take a look at the before, you can see that this is what we had, a little bit of jumping around, and now this is what we have, a little bit more smoother animation. And when you're building framework websites, you have to, take these into consideration and pay a lot of attention to them. Okay, so here we are on the next website. We have a couple of things that I want to take a look at here. And I just noticed another one that was not on my list before. So if I take a look at this navigation, I don't know if it's centered. Actually, maybe it is centered. Let's see. It's actually pretty hard to see, but I think it's centered. But yeah, these links here are not centered. So we are going to also take a look at that, how we can actually, center it within the navigation. And then we're going to also look at a couple of other different things. So for example, that center here, also this button looks not okay. If you can see this right padding is much larger than on the left. I'm pretty sure why is this happening. So we'll take a look at that as well. And also I would probably use VH for this hero section. So it is adapting to the screen size. So if I'm looking at this again on a large screen, I cannot actually see the half of the website, all of the other sections, but I can only focus on the hero section. So we'll just set it to, I don't know, 100 or 90 VH. So it takes up 100 or 90% of the given viewport at all times. And then what I also want to take a look at is these cards right here. When I hover over these, I actually get my pointer cursor. I don't know if you can see that because I'm using Screen Studio, which is a screen recorder that changes the cursor in some cases, but in some cases it keeps the wrong cursor. So the point is that I'm seeing a pointer cursor, which indicates that this is a clickable element. That's what pointer cursor means. But if I click, nothing really happens. So we have to fix that. We will have to set it back to the normal I don't know, cursor what we see when we hover over elements that are not clickable. So then I'm gonna also look at this little thing here. What I notice on these is that when I click them, you can see that if you focus on the top left and the bottom left corner, you can see that it is getting animated a little bit. The corner radius is changing. So I don't know if that's intentional, maybe, but in case if it's not, then I'll just show you how to fix that. And yeah, I think that's all I want to talk about. Yeah, so take a look at this project. So first of all, really easy fix on the hero section. As you can see, the height is fixed, which means that it's going to be 740 pixels no matter what. So if we set it to viewport and then maybe 90 VH, it will basically mean that it will nicely adopt the different screen heights. And if I publish this now and I open it, you'll see that it will now nicely adopt the different changes. So you can see this is the before and this is the after. You can see that now it adopts to my larger screen, but still we need some optimization to make sure that this is always in the center. So I'll just probably have to find this stack here, which is this hero. Probably we have to set this to, I'm gonna try fill height and then distribute center. So this fills up the available space and then this the content within is centered. So let's, publish this and see how it works. I'm gonna reload the site. And now as you can see, it is perfect. It is getting centered and it will look on all screen sizes. So now let's take a look at the navigation. It is not really centered. It's not really a great look here that this is pushed to the left a little bit. It's because you're probably using space between on this component. Let's see what is the settings. Yes, you can see it's space between. And you can see that you have three elements here: a logo type, menu, and then right. So in order to get this center element centered, you have to make sure that the element on the right and on the left, so the logo type frame, which is on the left, and the right frame, which is on the right, are having the same width. That will basically make sure that the center element here will be centered. So all I have to do is I have to check the width here on this stack on the right. It is this. I'm just going to copy it. I'll set it back to fit content. I'll just set it on the logo type. So let me just set fixed width, paste it in there. Just make sure that it is the logo is at the start perfectly, and you will now see that it is nicely centered within. And yeah, I think it will be a little bit better look. As you can see, it's now centered. Of course, we could argue that it's weird that we have this much space on the right and then we have a little bit more free space on the left. But what I would do personally is I would just, have this, okay, we have a little bit less space here, but still we are centering this menu here to the center of the website, which is, I think, a little bit more important. So now let's take a look at this little button in the top right, because you can see that it looks a little bit weird. This text is a little bit pushed to the bottom left. At least that's how I can see it. So let's take a look at that. Why is that happening? So I'm going to just double click into this component. I can see that this is basically another variant of the main button that they're using on the home. So let's just see what is happening right here. So I think there is a icon visibility property on the right that is turned off. We have this name, which is, I don't know. Okay. And there you go. That was the issue. Oh my God. Basically, there's just a little space here that I have to delete at the end of the text. And now if I save it, you can see that it would just jump back into the center. So now we have equal spacing on the left and the right. So that looks really nice. But one little thing that I want to also take a look at, and that's the fact that this is also pushed a little bit to the bottom. So let's center that in some way. So I'm gonna just click into this. For some reason we have this twice. Maybe there's an animation. Yes, there is. So yeah, in order to have both of these centered, we will just make sure that we have this title on a little bit larger height. So maybe 18. Yeah, I think that looks pretty much centered. And then hopefully, yeah, the hover state also looks great. So now if we publish the site and we reload it right here, you can see that on the top right, it looks much better. Now it is centered within the button, and the animation also looks nice. Okay, so when it comes to these elements right here that are having the pointer cursor, we can really easily fix that. I'm going to scroll down here. I'm going to select these elements. By the way, they are having the pointer cursor because you set hover state on them, and it just gets applied automatically because Framer assumes that when you have a hover state, and you also have this click event, which is, I'm not sure what it is. Maybe you wanted to add some overlay to this, or I'm not sure. But yeah, for now, we can just simply set a cursor, web cursor, and just switch it back from pointer to this regular cursor. And now if we will publish this website, you will see that if I reload here, I'll no longer see the pointer cursor, but I still activate the hover state. So now I see the hover state, but I don't think that this is clickable, and I'm not going to try clicking it. And lastly, let's take a look at that border radius changing right here. So I'm going to just click into this component, then click into this one as well. It probably has two variants. And the problem here, or again, I'm not sure if this is a problem or not, but what is happening here is that on the active and on the non-active variants, we have different corner radius. Let's just take a look at this. Yeah, it seems like the radius is 12 here, and on the non-active, the radius is 0. So I will assume that you did it on purpose, because it seems like that it's overridden here. But for me, it looked a little bit weird, so maybe I would just change it to like a fixed value. So now you can see that when I click these, the radius is not getting animated. But again, if this is something that you did intentionally, then it's totally fine. I just wanted to show you guys that in some cases, this actually is a little mistake that you don't notice, because you actually cannot see that this here doesn't have any corner radius because it doesn't have background color. And so in some cases you can actually miss this, but here it actually seems like it was intentional. But yeah, let's go into the next site. Okay, so on this website, I again want to talk about a few different things. First of all, what I noticed when I scroll down here is that some of these like borders are really strong with this like full white color. They're just really bright and they don't really look great. So I would probably drop their opacity a little bit, or just use a different shade of gray to make it a little bit more subtle. Then what I also see on the site is that it doesn't really have a consistent max width. So for example, you can see that here, this is really wide, and then this is not that wide. And then again here, this looks kind of equal to the testimonial sections, so it looks pretty nice. But then here again, we have a little bit more wider, and then here we have a little bit smaller, and then this is also smaller, and this is also a little bit different. If you can see here, the sides are not really aligned, and this is also not aligned with the sides of the previous section. So it is a little bit all over the place. It's really easy to fix this with wrapping all of these sections into like a main content frame and adding a max width to that, and setting all sections within to width fill. It will be fixed really easy. So I'm just gonna actually go into the project and do that. Hopefully it's structured correctly so I can do it really easily. So yes, as you can see, all of these sections are nicely structured here. Actually, what I'm thinking is that we could also just add the max width to all of these sections individually. By the way, what also can be a little issue for us is that we might set these max widths, but then if the padding values are different within the sections, then we might have little misalignments still, but let's try that. So here are about testimonial services. All of these are selected, and I'm gonna add max width of, I don't know, like 1100 pixels. So now I'm going to publish this and I'll compare the two websites. Okay, so as you can see, here is the before, inconsistent max width, and then here is the after. You can see that now this is also constrained to that little bit smaller width, and then all of these sections are nicely fitting within that max width. Maybe here we still have some inconsistencies, but we could actually take a look at these individually and see that, okay, these are probably set to a width fixed, and they have also a max width of 800 pixels. We could remove that, and then basically we could add that to all of these accordions, and now they'll basically fill up the available space here. It will still not be as wide as this one here because it has, as I said, this padding on the left and the right, so we could remove that. Again, I'm not gonna go through the whole site fixing this max width thing, but I think you got the basics. You just have to set the max width and also take into consideration the paddings on the left and on the right, and just try to get something that is fairly consistent. As you can see, by the way, on the Framerate University website, not everything is consistent, but there is, not everything is aligned at the left or the right, but there is consistency in it, because we have like two lines. We have this alignment line, and then we also have this, and we have also a little bit larger one. So we have, maybe here is the large, here's the medium, and here's the small. And for example, text is always contained in this, 800 or 600 max width. You can see that this is also aligned here. These images are also aligned on the left and on the right. And then again, as I said, we have this a little bit larger section. But this is, if you have a system, you don't have to align everything on the left and on the right at the same line. You can have, different max width values, but use those max width values consistently on your website, so we will be able to discover these lines. So for example, I can draw a line here on the left, and you can see that the left of my logo is aligned with the resources text and also the image right here. And if I scroll down, it will align with this image as well, and so on and so forth, and probably with the footer as well. So again, you just have to set up a system and just use that consistently. Okay, so the navbar will basically be the same fix that was on the previous website. What I would also do here is I would make these a little bit closer to the left, because this space feels a little bit weird to me. So I would just remove that padding from the left and from the right, but I'm still not filling up the available space, so probably I have to set this to width fill and then to space between. And now for some reason, yeah, we have right padding, so we're just gonna set 20 on the left and the right, maybe 16, because I want to make sure that this top value here is actually the similar to the left one. So let's see, the top is 10, so then the left one is going to be 10 as well. The right one is not going to be 10 because it just feels a little bit too close to me. So on the left we can increase it slightly. But the next point will be to make sure that this is centered. And again, you already learned how can we center it. Go and write it down in the comment section. How do we fix this? Basically, we just make sure that the left element and the right element has the same width. So if this is 120, this button, then this logo wrapping has to be also 120. It is scaling the logo with its parent that I'm resizing here. So I can switch this to just the left pin, and now it will just keep that left 0 pixel distance. It will not scale with the width of the frame. And now you can see that the text, so the menu items, are nicely centered within the navigation. And yeah, we have something that is a little bit better looking. Then if I scroll down the site, I notice one more thing, which is this pricing section. And you can see that each of them says choose plan. First of all, I don't really like that label, choose plan. I think something like get started or like subscribe, something like that could work a little bit better. What is also not really great about this is that all of these buttons are blue. So as you can see, I'm guessing that you want the users to buy the growth plan because that is the most popular, and you're also highlighting it with this little blue gradient border. So what I would do is I would just make sure that these are gray on the left and the right, and only the center one is blue. So we are really highlighting that, and we are encouraging users to click it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just simply change their label to, I don't know, subscribe. But as you can see, I don't really have a property for that, so I have to go within. So I just renamed it to subscribe, and then I will create another variant for this one. So I'm just going to duplicate this, and then this is going to be like a gray variant here. I'm not exactly sure which shade of the gray will work, but I'll try this one, and I'll just switch it to variant right here. Now we have this, and it is much better because now we're really highlighting that, yeah, we have to buy the growth plan, but if you want to, we can still buy the premium or starter. The FAQs, so you can see that now these are not wrapped in a component, so that's why they are like jumping away instantly. And also we have user select on the text, which is not really a great experience when we're clicking and selecting the text. So I'll just, turn this FAQs frame into a component, Option Command and K, and basically that's it. Now all I have to do is to match the transition, which is 560 with one mass, and I'll just set it right here, 560 with one mass. And now everything will be nicely animated. As you can see right here, everything is moving very nicely. And then what I can also do is I can go within the accordion, I can select both of these text layers, and I can add style user select none. So this will basically make sure that whenever I click on this text, it is not getting selected. Perfect. Then what I also don't like is that you can see it's overflowing. So when it appears, when I click it right now, you can see that it's a little bit overflowing on the bottom. We can basically prevent that with overflow hidden. And then you can also see that it is changing the text here from visible to, so visible yes to visible no right here. So if I take a look at here, it is set to visible no. So what I recommend usually is to change the visibility with opacity, because then it will be animated. Now, as you can see, it's not really changing the opacity from 0 to 1, it's just appearing instantly. But by the way, you can also use text effects or like appear effects if you want to. So let's see what you have here. Appear, on appear, opacity, yeah, but you need to have opacity 0, so it comes in from 0 opacity, and I think that will be actually a fix. No, it's not really fixing it. That's actually really weird. Whatever, I'm just gonna remove these appear effects, and then I'll set the opacity here to 0.8, and on the closed, I'm gonna not set visible to no. I'm gonna set it to yes, and I'll just switch it to opacity 0. And then of course I have to manually switch this to fixed height and make it a little bit smaller like this. But then it will result in a much nicer, fade in and fade out effect on the actual text. And then now you'll see that whenever I click on this FAQ section, the text is not going to be selected, and then everything is nicely going to be animated. And yeah, it is perfect. Okay, so the next website and the last website will be the Gym Bro AI. Transform your fitness with transform your fitness. Okay, I'm not gonna read it. Overflow hidden cuts appear animation. This is what I have noted right here. This is actually a little issue that most of the sites have. So if I just stay right here, and I just want to ask you to focus on this part here. I'm going to reload the site. So these animations will be triggered again. And you can see that as it appears from the bottom, it animates in with an offset. It is just cutting off. And, in some cases, this is what you need and this is what you want to have. But, in some cases, this is not what you need and this is not what you want to have. So for those cases, I want to show you how you can actually fix this little problem. So I'm going to go inside the Framer and switch to this project. So as you can see, this little card here has an appear effect. I'm going to take a look at that. On the right panel, it's actually not an appear effect, it's a scroll animation, but it is triggered when we, this layer scrolls into view. It's set right here, trigger layer in view. And so the preset here is set to little Y offset. So if I increase the opacity here, you can see that we are offsetting it to the bottom, but we can already see right here that this is not going to be great for us because it's just cutting off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set it to 100. I'm going to drop its opacity to 0, so it comes in from 0 opacity and a little bit of a Y offset. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to set its wrapping frame, which is the pricing wrap, to overflow visible. And it is actually overflow visible. That is really weird. But then I think we have to set its wrapping frame, which is in this case the pricing wrap, to overflow visible. And you can see it's already overflow visible. It's actually pretty good that this is the case here, because I can also show you that in some cases we have multiple wrapping frames that are set to overflow hidden, and we have to set all of them to overflow visible. So in this case we have the pricing wrap, but this content frame is also wrapping this little card, and it's ending right here at the bottom. So if we switch that to overflow visible, then you will see that now if I preview this animation here, you can see that now it's nicely going over and it's not cutting off. So I'll just publish this website and we'll compare the two versions. And we're going to nicely see that if we focus on this part and I reload this, you'll see that it's nicely coming in from the bottom and it doesn't have any overflow hidden, any cutting off. And again, in some cases you want it to cut off, in some cases you don't. Just make sure that you know how to fix it and you intentionally choose whatever you want to have. Okay, so this video is already super long. I actually have, 6 or 7 more websites on my list with detailed feedback on each of them. So let me know in the comments if you want to see more of these videos, because I might post another part of these roasting Framer websites, but only if you guys want to have more of these videos. So make sure to let me know in the comments. Also, if you have any questions, make sure to drop those into the comment section. I'm gonna do my best to answer you guys. And yeah, I really do hope that this video was helpful and I could answer some of the questions that you might have in your head, or I was able to show you some mistakes that you might have been already making. So yeah, make sure to also take a look at Framer University and check out the resources that I have there. I also have a bunch of other tutorials on that website. That's it for this video. Make sure to like it, subscribe for more, and I'm gonna see you in the next one.